Hey, how's it going, guys? And welcome back to my Workbench journal. It's been quite a while since I did one of these. For you old guys that watch this video, why I don't know. Maybe there's 4 of you that watch it. You guys already know what I do. But for you new guys who stumble across this or just look for something to watch, my name is Phil, and this is where I build my model kits, talk about things I work on, or the hobby in general. Anyway, so it's been a couple weeks since I last left off. I don't remember what I was talking about. I don't know. Oh, that's what I was talking about. I had a kit that I wanted to finish up, and I botched a paint job on. So this is the end result of repainting and stuff. For some of you guys know what it is. This is an F4 Phantom. It's very recognizable. The kit itself is the old Monogram kit. I've talked about it before in previous videos. Well, I finally got the paint job done up, and I actually used some Funtac, which is basically is basically what you use is an alternative instead of using thumbtacks or tape to post up paper posters on walls and stuff. You use this instead, depending on how humid it is out there. I also found out that it can, much like Silly Putty, it can be used as a mask, like a masking powder similar to masking tape, except unlike masking tape where unlike masking tape where everything's sharp, this one you could use for irregular patterns. That's how I did on this. So basically what I did was I repainted this because, like I said before, I botched the paint job last time, and it went under my workbench into the shelf of shame. So, which is where most of my kits that I screw up and I try to fix. Well, I ended up repainting it. I stripped the original paint off with some rubbing alcohol, which actually worked out pretty good. I used 91% isopropyl alcohol to strip the paint. Fortunately, the acrylic wasn't that strong of a formula, which means I better put a clear coat on it if I'm going to be doing decals and stuff. So, what I did was I painted this in the Southeast Asia wraparound scheme, which was starting to show up in the late 70s, early 80s time frame. I used life color paints throughout the entire build. I'm still getting the hang of the... Pardon me for a moment. I'm still getting the hang of the life color paints. And also since I'm starting to use my double action airbrush again, starting to get comfortable with it again. About a year ago, I picked up a Badger 155 Anthem because I couldn't find a Badger 150 anymore, which it was what I used to use before I started using Aztec. Anyway, back to what I was doing. So even though I got the hang of using the airbrush again, the life color I'm still working with. So if I don't use enough thinner, it still ends up being grainy and clogs up the airbrush. Too much, it turns into a watery mess. So I'm still trying to figure out the ratio on it, but I'm getting a lot better with the ratio on it now than I did before. And now I'm starting to get the hang of this. So, what I did for the pattern with the Funtac, I used the first color. Basically, I sprayed the first color freehanded, which was tan. Then I used medium green, which was my second color. I rolled up the Funtac made it like a little cylinder, flattened it out with a paintbrush. You could use a wooden dowel. I had a paintbrush handle on hand, so make life easier. I applied it on in strips, as you can see here and in here, where I knew the green was going to be touching the tan. Sprayed my second color. Whatever was left was freehanded. Finally, I did my third and final coat, which was forest green or dark green, and I applied everything else. However, this took a couple weeks because the reason why it took a couple weeks because between taking care of my son, working heavy hours, and taking care of the backyard, me and my wife are in the process of working on cleaning up the backyard and stuff, or making it look good. Let's just say this: I used a rototiller, I've got to use a stump grinder, and I got other things to work on. I still got to set up a fence and stuff. Back to the kit. I did these, but I also did these in colors and sections at a time because I knew it was not going to be easy. So, also because of the life color, even though it's a great paint, once you get the hang of it, it's still a little tricky to use, especially when it's drying. It may be dry to a touch after about an hour, but it takes a full 24 hours to fully cure. Sometimes 2 days, depending on the humidity pardon, and the temperature. So I really had to take my time with this. Another reason why I took my time was because using the Funtac, it takes a good 15 minutes of prep time to set up everything. And once I got it all said and done, as a matter of fact, some sections I did, once I got everything said and done, I had to do sections at a time because I was afraid I was going to leave thumbprints on the paint. And also, while it's still dry to the touch and it's still curing, it's still prone to being rubbed off, because of, oils on your hands or other stuff. So I really had to take the time. It took a course of, if I did this nonstop, it would have taken a week. But it took about a course of 2 weeks because of everything going on. Life beckons. Nothing I could do. So what little time I did have was mostly an hour or two, and it was mostly just to decompress and clear my head. So, got everything taken care of. It's all good to go. Now, the Funtac, it's a lot like using silly putty. A modeler found out that you can use silly putty for masking. And like I said, the good part about this is, depending on how heavy you flatten it or whatnot, you can either get a softer edge or you can get a hard edge to it. It depends on how you flatten it and the angle of your airbrush. And in this case, with the Phantom here, the edges are not feathered, they're hard. But to be fair, I work in a smaller scale. If you looked at the actual aircraft, and especially in photos, you'll see the edges from color to color were always feathered. But look at the size of the actual aircraft, and then you look at the sprayer. You can see why. You really can't get a solid line unless you use mats. But they didn't use mats. Everything was done freehanded. So more or less that's how it goes. It's done. Now all I got to do is put the black on the radome. Black on the radome. I just got to paint the metal section. That's going to require masking tape. That'll require masking tape. Those are going to be definitely sharp lines. I also got the fuel tanks done, as you can see here, since I was doing the colors. Got the inner pylons done for the missiles, which are done here. And I got the gun pod done. Now, this one I'm working on was used by the Air Force. It was the F4C and the F4D. I'm building the D version. Differences is in the fairing on the nose and a couple of other odds and ends. It was more used for... It also had a different missile setup before they had to field modify it to carry Sidewinders. Even though it still used Sparrows. Otherwise, everything else is out of the box. I added, if you notice on the pylon, the inner pylons here, I added chaff and flare dispensers. These were a post-Vietnam thing, so I added them onto the pylons. I added spares from a Hoskala kit, especially since I'm doing a late in its service life, or most of it's a little later in its service life. And the swatter I'm going to be the markings I'm going to be using are going to be from various sources, because I really can't find a decal sheet for McGuire Air Force Base unless I'm building the E version. I've seen those roar. I never got to see that. So this was actually used for a few years at McGuire Air Force Base. Since I live in New Jersey, that's actually pretty close to me. It's next to Great Adventure out in Jackson, which is also next to Lakehurst and Fort Dix, which is somewhere out in the Pinelands. We'll not get into that. Now that's done, I'm going to use some various decals. I still got a lot of work to do on this. This is going to take a while, especially in between what I got going on. But it'll be worth it in the end. Otherwise, yeah, the kit itself, like I've talked about it, the old Monogram kit before, it's a nice kit, especially for the money. You can still get one of these. It's still cheaper than the Hoskala kit. It's not as good as the Academy kit, which was released a couple years back, which is a fantastic kit, but it's still worth the money. I mean, it's got raised panel lines, but the detail's actually very good, and you can always get aftermarket stuff for it, and it's still cheaper because, it's a nice kit. It really is. It's worth every penny. This is actually the first boxing that I picked up from a swap meet, and it was, like you said, there's no warp, no flash, and it fit very well. I don't remember the last time a Monogram kit fit that well. Like I said, first boxing. So once it's taken care of, like I said, I still got a ways to go, but it's a simple kit, easy to take care of. Once it's done, it's done. I'm probably not going to do too many Workbench journals on this kit. Just give you a quick blurb and what's going on. Now the second half is I'll be talking about this in a future Workbench journal video. This is the Tamiya P-47 kit. Now the actual P-47 itself was used during World War II by the United States. It's a big friggin' bird. It was a big one. It was intended to be an interceptor, so the range wasn't that great. But it also turned out to be a fantastic fighter bomber. It was rugged. It was a tough plane, and it worked very well in Europe. Did okay in the Pacific theater, but we'll talk more about that in the future Workbench Journal videos. And but the P-47 itself, I always liked it. I thought it was a cool airplane. Same thing with the P-38. Those two were my favorites used by the United States Army Air Force during World War II. Everybody liked the P-51 or this, that. That one was my favorite. It wasn't about the looks. It was about the use. And more or less, it's a pretty rugged plane. Now, as for the kit itself, there's quite a few of them available. The Monogram kit's not an easy find. You also have the Otaki kit. Now you built and molded by Ari. You had Hasegawa. But I acquired this one through a trade with a fellow modeler who I consider a friend, whose name is Dren. And he was looking for a Phantom kit, and I happen to have one, and I knew it wasn't going to build it. It just was not going to happen. I mean, as much as I like the Phantom, I just looked at it, I was like, I'm never going to get this built. So, he happened to have the P-47, and I was looking for one. Trade was made. There you go. This is actually the second P-47 model kit I'll be building. First one I built was an old Johan kit, which I acquired from a friend. Thank you, by the way. Also, it was an old 72nd kit. Nice little kit. Wasn't superbly detailed. It wasn't a high-tech kit, but it was a fun kit to put together. I built it in flight, gave it fuel tanks, painted it accordingly, and it was a really, really nice kit. I mean, it's cheap. If you can find it, build it. It's a nice little kit. But otherwise, this is the second one I built. And like I said, I like the P-47. It's a really nice looking plane, but it just never crossed my mind to build one of these. But fortunately, Tamiya, and before I go further, I prefer the Razorback over the Bubble Top. And I like the Razorback. Now, as for the kit itself, the Tamiya kit, this is a fantastic model kit. From what I've read, from what people have told me, even I looked at it, I was like, that is a nice looking kit. Like I said, I just never really thought about building one because I tend to build more World War II U.S. Navy, U.S. Marine aircraft, particularly Pacific theater. Same thing with my favorite subject of World War II was always Japanese and U.S. Navy. So Air Force stuff was not that common with me. Even that, like Axis, like World War II German or Italian, wasn't that common with me. But like I said, P-47 is a favorite. The kit itself, as I said before, it's just a fantastic kit. I'm not going to be using Little Chief, and I'm trying to avoid building this as Spirit of Atlantic City. I'm trying to avoid those. I'm going to see if I can find something with different nose art. Honestly, I think Little Chief has been done to death. Maybe that's just my opinion, but I've seen it too many times. So I want to do something different. Maybe find something with a pinup girl. Hopefully something that does not involve invasion stripes from Normandy. I do not need to do that. That is just a pain in the ass. Too much. That's too much for me. Just want to keep it simple. And I'm actually pretty excited about building that kit. It's a nice change of pace. I'm a little tired of building Zeros at the moment. I've already built 2 of them so far. I still got a bunch in the stash. And I really need a break from them. I'm getting tired of building modern aircraft. After this one, I need a breather from it. I need a breather from them. They're great. Even though it's my preferred subject, and I've dealt with a lot of World War II, Cold War era subjects, I'm starting to get a little burnt out. I mean, I could build armor, but really, I don't have that armor mojo at the moment. So, prop job it is. And hopefully I can find decals that'll look at me and say, "Excuse me." Sorry, I had to do it. That's basically it. And the P-47 is an interesting bird to begin with, especially with the history, the name of the company, and the colors that are used. I mean, outside, it's olive drab over gray. Not that much, but it's like the interior, like the chromate, the cockpit color. I will discuss these in a future video, and hopefully I'll have the decal sheet I needed. As for a reference, I won't be flying blind in the dark with this. I actually got this. Before the internet, this was the book you used, Detail and Scale series, because it covered everything about every aircraft. However, the problem with using certain reference books is they only stop at one point when they're printed. And unfortunately, there are companies that reissue them. They don't revise them or reissue them anymore. And if you want to get one of these, you can actually order them online and put them in your iPad or Kindle or even a Nook. So that's a big help. So, and unlike books, they won't wear away over time. I mean, even if I did find tons of reference books for cheap, it would still cost. But who knows? Let's see what happens. And like I said, I'm going to have some fun with this one. It's really needed. And, you know, even after that, hopefully I'll find a P-38 kit. I've only built a no. I almost finished one P-38, but we'll save that for another day. Right now, I'm just going to focus on the Phantom, and I'm going to focus on the Thunderbolt, and that is the end of it, at least for a while. And I know it's going to be a while with both of these. This is all I got for now. I got to go check up. I'm going to go check up on Take Care of Things. And I will talk to you guys again soon. And have a good one. Take it easy.